She caught his reflection in the mirror, and it wasn't his face staring back. The man she married, the billionaire who gave her everything, wasn't human. And by the time she discovered the truth, it was already too late to walk away. If you're ready for a story that will shake everything you believe about love and reality, hit that like button right now, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Zara Thompson never believed in fairy tales. Growing up in Brooklyn with barely enough money to keep the lights on, she learned early that Prince Charming doesn't exist and happy endings are for people who can afford them. At 28, she was working 3 jobs just to keep her dead mother's art gallery from closing. The bank was calling every week. The landlord had already started eviction proceedings. She was 2 months away from losing everything her mother built. That night at the Manhattan Charity Gala, she didn't even want to be there. Her friend Jasmine practically dragged her, said she needed to network, meet people with money, people who could save the gallery. Zara felt like a fraud in her borrowed dress, standing in a room full of diamonds and designer shoes that cost more than her rent. Then she saw him. Kwame Osei stood across the room like he owned not just the space but the air itself. Tall, perfectly dressed, the kind of handsome that makes you forget how to breathe. But it was his eyes that caught her. Dark, intense, like they could see straight through to the parts of yourself you kept hidden. When he walked toward her, everyone else seemed to disappear. He knew her favorite artist, somehow, he knew. They talked for hours about things she never discussed with anyone. About her mother's death, about the weight of carrying someone's dream when they're gone. By the end of the night, he wrote a check that would save the gallery 3 times over, just like that. No strings, he said, just because he believed in her. Zara should have known then that something was wrong. Nobody gives away that kind of money for nothing. But she was drowning, and he was offering her air. 3 months later, she was living in a completely different world. Private jets to Paris for breakfast. Shopping on Bond Street in London. A 50-room mansion in Lagos with actual peacocks walking through the gardens. Kwame treated her like she was made of something precious, something rare. He called her his queen, said she was the only real thing in his life. Except he never ate in front of her, not once. Always said he had already eaten or he would eat later or he had a sensitive stomach. When she tried to take selfies with him, the photos always came out blurred, like something was interfering with the camera. His penthouse in New York didn't have a single mirror, not one. He said it was minimalist design, very modern, very intentional. Zara told herself rich people were just different. They had their quirks, their odd habits. She ignored the way his housekeepers whispered in languages she didn't recognize when they thought she couldn't hear. She ignored how cold his skin always felt, like touching marble in winter. She ignored the way dogs would whimper and back away when he came near, how birds would suddenly fly off when he walked outside. Love makes you ignore things, makes you stupid. When he proposed, he flew her to Nigeria for a traditional engagement ceremony. His family, he said, wanted to meet her properly. The elders performed rituals she didn't understand, burning herbs that made her dizzy, chanting words that seemed to vibrate in her chest. An old priestess grabbed her arm, stared into her eyes with this look of pure pity, and whispered 6 words that Zara would remember forever. The mirror never lies, child, never. But Zara laughed it off.
Superstition, she thought. Old country beliefs that didn't mean anything in the modern world. The wedding was everything she had dreamed of as a little girl. 500 guests, Cape Town, 2 ceremonies, 1 traditional African, 1 Western. When Kwame slid the gold ring onto her finger, it felt warm, almost alive against her skin. That night, standing under the moon, she noticed he didn't cast a shadow. The moonlight hit him directly, but the ground beneath his feet stayed bright.
Too much champagne, she told herself. Just tired. Just overwhelmed. They moved into his penthouse on the 45th floor, overlooking Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views that made you feel like you were floating above the city. Everything should have been perfect. Everything should have felt like the happy ending she'd stopped believing in. But strange things kept happening. Small things at first. Electronics would glitch when he walked by. Her phone would die the moment he touched it. The lights would flicker. Once, she swore she saw his reflection in the window, and his eyes were glowing, just for a second, like an animal's eyes caught in headlights. Every full moon, he would disappear for exactly 3 days. Business, he said. Important meetings overseas. But he never came back with jet lag, never had any proof he'd actually gone anywhere. And he'd come back different, somehow. Colder, more distant, like something inside him had shifted. Zara started having dreams. Her dead mother standing at the foot of her bed, shaking her head, tears running down her face. "Wake up, baby. Wake up before it's too late." She'd bolt awake, heart racing, and Kwame would be standing by the window, just staring out at the city, completely still, not breathing, not moving, like a statue. "You okay?" she'd ask. He'd turn, smile that perfect smile. "Of course, my love, just thinking." But his eyes looked empty. 6 months into the marriage, Zara couldn't take it anymore. She demanded answers. Why the secrecy? Why the weird behavior? Why did his so-called business partners have eyes that seemed to reflect the light like cats? Why could she never find any information about him online before 10 years ago? Why did he seem to have no past, no childhood photos, no old friends? They had their first real fight that night. Kwame got angry, actually angry, for the first time since she'd known him. His voice dropped to something that didn't sound quite human, something that made the windows rattle. "Some things are better left unknown, Zara. Some doors shouldn't be opened." She accused him of cheating, of lying, of using her for something she couldn't understand. He laughed, and the sound was wrong, all wrong, like multiple voices layered on top of each other. "You have no idea what I've sacrificed to be with you," he said. "No idea what I've given up." Then he left, just walked out and didn't come back for a week. Zara went crazy during that week. She hired a private investigator who quit after 3 days, wouldn't even explain why, just refunded her money and blocked her number. She searched every database she could access. Kwame Ose didn't exist before 2015. Before that, nothing. No birth certificate, no school records, no medical history. It was like he'd appeared out of thin air, fully formed, with billions of dollars and a face that could sell anything. Her friend Jasmine thought she was losing her mind. "Girl, you're not used to this lifestyle yet. Rich people are weird. Just enjoy it." But Zara couldn't shake the feeling that she'd married something wearing a man's face. When Kwame finally came back, he acted like nothing had happened. Brought her flowers, jewelry, promises to be more open. But that night, Zara made a decision. She waited until he fell asleep. Then she went to the room he told her never to enter. The one room in the entire penthouse that was always locked. She picked the lock with the hairpin. Her hands were shaking so badly, it took 20 minutes. Inside, the room was empty except for an altar. Her photos covered every surface, surrounded by candles, cowrie shells, bones that looked disturbingly human.
Ancient texts written in languages she didn't recognize were stacked in a corner. And in the center, a wooden box with symbols carved into it, locked with a mechanism she couldn't figure out. She heard footsteps behind her, felt the temperature in the room drop 20 degrees. Kwame stood in the doorway, and for the first time, she saw real emotion on his face. Rage, fear, something else she couldn't name. "You shouldn't have come in here," Zara said when he finally turned around, and for the first time, she saw real emotion on his face. Rage, fear, something else she couldn't name. "You shouldn't have come in here," Zara whispered, her voice trembling. What was in that room? What was going on? But he just turned and walked away, leaving her alone with the altar and the horrible understanding that nothing about her life was what it seemed.
The next 3 days were torture. Kwame avoided her completely, slept in a different room, left before she woke up, came back after she'd gone to bed. Zara couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She called her mother's best friend, Mama Adeyemi, an older Nigerian woman who'd always told stories about the old ways, about spirits and ancient gods that walked among humans. "Child," Mama Adeyemi said over the phone, her voice shaking, "you've been whacked. Whatever you married, it's not just a man. And if what I think is true, your life stopped being your own the moment you said I do." Zara wanted to scream, wanted to run, but where would she go? Back to Brooklyn? Back to the struggling gallery and the 3 jobs and the life that felt like drowning? Or forward, into whatever nightmare she'd accidentally married into? She didn't get to choose. 4 days later, Kwame came to her, apologized, said he'd been under stress, that he'd explain everything eventually, but right now he needed her to trust him. They were going to a gala that night, something important, and he needed her by his side. Zara agreed. She didn't know what else to do. She wore an emerald dress that cost more than her childhood home, did her makeup perfect, put on the diamond necklace he'd given her for their 1-month anniversary, tried to pretend everything was normal. They were getting ready in the bedroom when she noticed it. The workers had installed a massive floor-to-ceiling mirror while they'd been out earlier. The decorator had made an error, Kwame said, looking pale. He'd specifically requested no mirrors. He'd have it removed tomorrow. But it was too late. Zara was standing in front of it, adjusting her earrings, when Kwame walked up behind her to help with her necklace. She looked at their reflection, saw herself clearly, beautiful in the green dress, diamonds catching the light. And behind her, where Kwame should have been, was something else. Something tall and wrong, with eyes that glowed like molten gold, skin that seemed to shift and move like smoke, features that were almost human but not quite, like someone had tried to draw a person from memory and gotten the proportions slightly off. Ancient, powerful, absolutely terrifying. Zara screamed. The sound ripped out of her throat, raw and animal. She spun around and there was Kwame, looking normal, looking concerned, reaching for her. But when she looked back at the mirror, the thing was still there, still watching her with those burning eyes. The mirror cracked straight down the middle with a sound like gunfire. "What are you?" she whispered. "What the hell are you?" And Kwame's face, his beautiful, perfect face, crumbled into something that looked like grief. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way." Then he told her the truth. His name wasn't Kwame Osei. That man had died 200 years ago of tuberculosis in a small village outside Lagos. Kwame was just the most recent body, the most recent life he'd borrowed. His real name was Ajala, a traveler between worlds, a warrior prince who'd made a deal with Eshu, the trickster god, centuries ago. He'd wanted immortality, wanted to protect his people forever, wanted to never die and leave them vulnerable. Eshu had granted his wish, but the cost was steep. Ajala could never exist as himself. Every 50 years, his borrowed body would start to fade and it had to find a new vessel. Someone dying, someone at the edge, someone willing to make an exchange. Their remaining time for his eternal life. The real Kwame Osei had been dying of cancer, had 3 months left, had a family drowning in medical debt. Ajala gave him a choice. Let me take your remaining time and I'll make sure your family never struggles again. The billions were real. The empire was real, all built over centuries of lifetimes, each one adding to the wealth, the power, the influence. But there was a curse woven into the gift. Ajala could never be seen as he truly was. Mirrors didn't reflect him. Photos couldn't capture him. He existed in this space between what was real and what people could perceive. And if the person he loved most, the person his soul was bound to, ever saw his true form, the curse would deepen, tighten, make it even harder to break.
Why me? Sarah asked. Her whole body was shaking. Why did you choose me? Your bloodline, Ajala said. Your ancestors were connected to mine centuries ago. That pendant you wear, the one your mother gave you, it was blessed by the same priests who cursed me. When I saw you at that gala, I felt something I hadn't felt in 200 years. Hope. I thought maybe, with you, I could finally be free. But I was selfish. I dragged you into this, and now you're bound to it too. Zara wanted to throw up. Everything she thought was real, every moment of happiness, every touch, every kiss had been with something that wasn't human. She'd given herself to a spirit wearing a dead man's face. I can let you go, Ajala said. There's a ritual. I can erase your memories of all this. You'll wake up in your gallery in Brooklyn, and none of this will have ever happened. No marriage, no money, no me. You'll be free. Or you can stay. Help me break this curse. But I have to warn you, the spirits who bound me won't let you go easily. Staying means danger. Staying means risking everything, including your soul. Zara couldn't speak, couldn't think. She just ran, grabbed her phone, her wallet, and ran out of that penthouse like something was chasing her. She went straight to Mama Adeyemi's apartment in Queens. The old woman took one look at her and knew. You've seen him, Mama Adeyemi said. The real him. Zara broke down, told her everything. The altar, the confession, the choice she'd been given. Mama Adeyemi listened, her face getting older and sadder with every word. The curse he carries, Mama Adeyemi finally said, it's older than countries, older than most religions. Breaking it requires a sacrifice so big, most people would never make it. And even if you try, there's no guarantee it will work. You could lose everything, your life, your soul, your very existence. But if you walk away, if you let him erase your memories, you will lose something else. You will lose the truth. You will lose knowing that magic is real, that there's more to this world than what you can see. And you will lose him, whatever he is. Zara stayed with Mama Adeyemi for 2 weeks. Didn't contact Kwame or Ajala or whatever his name really was. Didn't go back to the penthouse. Tried to figure out who she was when everything she thought she knew was a lie. She kept dreaming about her mother, but this time her mother wasn't warning her. She was smiling. Love is love, baby. Doesn't matter what package it comes in. Only question is, are you brave enough to fight for it? On the 15th day, Zara made her decision. She went back to the penthouse. Ajala looked terrible, like he'd aged years in 2 weeks. The curse was consuming him without her nearby. That's when she understood. The bond between them was real, even if everything else had been built on secrets. I'm not doing this because I'm naive. I'm not doing this because of the money or the lifestyle. I'm doing this because in a world full of fake people, you are the only one who showed me something real, even when real meant being something impossible. So tell me how we break this curse, and don't lie to me ever again. The ritual had to happen in Nigeria, in the sacred grove where Ajala had first made his deal with Esu. Mama Adeyemi came with them along with other priests who knew the old ways. They prepared for 7 days, fasting, cleansing, speaking to spirits that Zara still couldn't quite believe in, even though she'd married one. The night of the ritual, Mama Adeyemi explained what would happen.
Zara would have to give her blood willingly, break the pendant that connected her bloodline to Ajala's curse, and then Ajala would have to face Esu himself and reject the gift of immortality. Choose death, choose mortality, choose a single human lifetime over eternity. Most spirits would never do it, Mama Ademi said. The fear of death is what drives them to make these deals in the first place. But Ajala wasn't most spirits.
The ritual started at midnight. Candles and fires and chanting that seemed to vibrate in Zara's bones. Ajala began to transform, his human disguise peeling away to reveal the creature underneath. Tall, impossible, made of something between smoke and shadow and starlight. His true form was terrifying and beautiful and nothing like anything that should exist. Zara didn't look away. She'd promised herself she wouldn't. "I see you," she said, "all of you, and I'm not afraid." Then Eshu appeared. The trickster god was everything the story said. Chaos and charm and cruelty wrapped up in a form that kept shifting, kept changing, never settling on one face. He was furious that Ajala would dare reject his gift, furious that a mortal woman would have the audacity to interfere. "You think love is stronger than eternity?" Eshu laughed. "You think one human lifetime is worth more than forever?" Ajala stood his ground. "I've lived forever, and it's made me hollow. I've loved 1,000 times and forgotten them all because nothing meant anything when I knew I'd outlive it. But her," he pointed to Zara, "she makes me want to be mortal. She makes me want to die knowing I spent every second I had being truly alive." The pendant around Zara's neck started burning. She grabbed it, pulled hard, felt the chain break. The moment it left her skin, the air exploded with light and sound and something that felt like the world was tearing apart. Eshu screamed. Ajala collapsed. The priests kept chanting, kept the circle held, kept the ritual going, even as the ground cracked beneath them. Then, silence. Complete, total, suffocating silence. Zara crawled to where Ajala had fallen. His true form was gone. He looked human now, completely human, lying still on the ground. She couldn't tell if he was breathing. "Please," she whispered, "please don't leave me now." His eyes opened. Brown eyes, normal eyes, human eyes. He gasped for air like he'd never breathed before, like every breath was new and strange and precious. "Did it work?" he asked. Zara touched his face. His skin was warm, actually warm. She could feel his pulse under her fingers, feel his heart beating, feel him alive in a way he hadn't been before. "You're here!" she cried. "You're really here!" They stayed in Nigeria for 3 months while Ajala learned how to be human, how to eat and taste food for the first time in 2 centuries, how to sleep and actually dream, how to bleed when he cut himself, how to bruise, how to feel pain and joy and all the messy, complicated things that came with having a body that could actually die. The billions were still real. The empire he'd built still existed. But now he had maybe 50 years left if he was lucky, maybe less. Every day was counting down to an end he'd avoided for so long. And he'd never been happier. They got married again 6 months later. Small ceremony in Brooklyn at Zara's gallery. Just close friends and family. Ajala stood in front of a mirror before they walked down the aisle, staring at his reflection like he couldn't believe it was real. "I can see myself," he kept saying. "I can actually see myself." There were laugh lines around his eyes now, gray hair starting at his temples. His hands shook sometimes. He got tired. He got sick. He was aging, and it was the most beautiful thing Zara had ever seen. They danced under string lights that night, and everything felt perfect. Everything felt like the happy ending Zara had stopped believing in. But Mama Adeyemi pulled her aside before they left,
her face worried. "The curse is broken," she said quietly, "but Eshu never truly forgives. He always collects his debts one way or another. Watch for signs. Watch for shadows that move wrong. Watch for the feeling that something's watching back." Zara tried to ignore the warning, tried to focus on her new life with her husband, who was finally, actually, completely human. But 3 months after the wedding, she started noticing things again. Adala's reflection in the mirror would sometimes lag, just for a second, like it wasn't quite synced up with his movements. Electronics was starting to glitch around him again. And twice, she could swear she saw someone standing in the corner of their bedroom at night, just watching, eyes glowing amber in the darkness.
She didn't tell Ajala, didn't want to worry him. He was so happy, so genuinely joyful about being alive, about having a future that would end. She couldn't take that away from him. But the pendant her mother gave her, the one she destroyed in the ritual, kept appearing. On her nightstand, in her purse, in the bathroom. Every time she threw it away, it came back. And last week, she found a message written in the steam on the bathroom mirror after her shower. 3 words, in a language she shouldn't understand but somehow did. The debt remains. Mama Adeyemi came over as soon as Zara called. She looked at the pendant, looked at the message, and her face went pale. "I was afraid of this," she said. "When you break a deal with Isu, he lets you think you've won, but there's always a catch, always a price he didn't mention." "What price?" Zara asked. "What does he want?" Mama Adeyemi held the pendant up to the light. The symbols on it were different now, rearranged into a pattern that looked almost like a countdown. "A life for a life," she said. "Ajala took mortality from Isu's gift, but nothing is truly free. Isu will collect what he's owed." "When?" Zara whispered. The old woman traced the symbols with her finger, counting something Zara couldn't see. "You have 3 months, maybe less. And when the time comes, Isu will offer a choice. Ajala's life for someone else's. A trade, an exchange." Zara felt ice in her stomach. "He'll ask me to take Ajala's place, won't he? He wants me to become what Ajala was." Mama Adeyemi nodded slowly. "The cycle continues. That's how these curses work. They don't end, they just find new hosts." Zara hasn't told Adala yet, hasn't told him that their happiness has an expiration date, that the monster they thought they defeated is just waiting in the shadows, counting down to the moment it can strike. She watches him sleep at night, watches him breathe, watches him be beautifully, perfectly human. And she wonders if she'll have the strength to make the choice when the time comes, if she'll trade places with him, if she'll become the thing he spent 200 years being just to give him the one human lifetime he wanted so desperately. The pendant is on her nightstand right now, glowing faintly in the dark, counting down. 3 months until Isu comes to collect his debt. 3 months until Zara has to decide what love is really worth. And the worst part is knowing that no matter what she chooses, someone she loves will lose everything. If you made it this far, drop a like right now and hit that subscribe button because this story isn't over. Part 2 is coming and trust me, you need to know how this ends. Comment below and tell me what you think Zara should do. Should she trade places with Adala? Should she find another way? Or is there no escaping a deal with a god? Let me know where you're watching from and what you'd do if you were in her shoes. Until next time, remember, some debts can never be paid, and some deals never really end.